Hey guys, today I want to talk to you a little bit about temptation and my friend Dan and his wife Mary and his sister-in-law Grace. We're going to talk about the temptation that has started to spoil his Philippine retirement. And we're going to talk about temptation here in the Philippines. Now, guys, when you arrive here in the Philippines, you're going to meet somebody. If you don't already have a significant other, you don't have a long distance relationship, you're just arriving on the plane, staying in your hotel, walking around to meet people. Maybe you're on Facebook, maybe you're on a dating site, but you're going to find somebody. And after you're with that somebody for a couple of days, you're going to find somebody better. Upgrade the situation you're in. Maybe it's somebody that's a little bit older, somebody that's a little bit more mature, somebody that, has a better education, maybe somebody with a job, whatever upgrade you're looking for. It could be just plain looks that you're looking to upgrade in looks, but also Filipinas are doing the same thing. When a Filipina meets a foreigner and she wants to have a foreigner in her life and she meets you and she sees what you have to offer and how you treat her, maybe you're not quite what she wants, and she'll start looking for an upgrade also. There's so many temptations here. The girls are so beautiful. I've driven up and down the road from Valencia to Dumaguete so many times. And as I'm going down the road, a girl will be going the opposite direction. She'll sit up in her motorbike she's riding. She'll smile at you or wave, but you don't make that U-turn. You don't go chasing after that. Those are temptations. When you're downtown and you're on the boulevard and some girl walks up to you and says, "Where's your wife?" And you go, "My wife's not with me. She's at home." Don't engage in that conversation. That is the temptation of the Philippines. The women are so beautiful and so nice and so easy to talk to in many cases. But let's talk about my friend Dan. I reached out to Dan right after the Davao earthquake. And I did this story about Dan on Mike's Coffee Shop, just a short, quick video, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, about the situation he's in. A couple years ago, he was sitting on his couch in the U.S. He met a girl online. Her name was Mary. And Dan and Mary started having a nice conversation. They were talking every day. They were video chatting. Their life was consumed with talking to each other every day. He would go to work and come home and want to talk to her. She worked and she would talk to him. But the time difference, they didn't have time to talk all the time because his work schedule, her work schedule, but they found time. They found time to make it work. Well, Dan got to the point that he's retiring and decided he's going to come to the Philippines. He came here 2 years ago. He flew into Manila. He talked Mary into quitting her job, and she met him at the airport. Now, Mary, she's in her early 40s, beautiful woman, nice girl. Dan, like I said, he's 66 years old. This is working out great for them. And they took their time. Her hometown is in Mindanao. And they took their time traveling from Manila down to Mindanao. They took the bus, they took ferries, they stopped at Alona Beach. They just stopped at a lot of places. He was having the time of his life traveling the Philippines. But Mary was thinking, "I'm headed home with my future husband." And they talked about it. They got to Mindanao. They lived just below Davao, south of Davao. And family property. The family owned this large piece of property out there. And Dan decided, let's go ahead and get married. And him and Mary got married. He wanted to buy some property. But Mary said, just buy it from my family. Don't have to go through the title work. And he trusted the family. They treated him great. When he would go to dinner, he would sit at the head of the table. They always made sure he had something to drink. He got the best piece of chicken. He got the first piece of the pork. He was like king of this castle, which wasn't his yet. But he is there and he is being treated like a king. And Mary is everything he could ask for. Mary doesn't have any kids and she's not working. So she devoted herself completely to Dan. So they decided to buy some property from the family. And Dan gave him 20,000 USD for some property. He didn't want any title work. He didn't want any survey. Just let me have this area of land over here. I'll build a house and you let us do whatever we want over here. And everybody was in agreement. They started building the house. And Dan wanted to do it hands-on. He wanted to get his hands dirty and help with the building, mixing the concrete, carrying the cinder blocks, the hollow blocks to the building. He wanted to be involved with everything involved with the building, hiring the labor, working with them, taking lunch with them. He wanted to immerse himself into the culture and land and the way of life here in the Philippines. And he was having a great time. So they got the house almost all the way complete. And all of a sudden, a new family member showed up. Her name was Grace. Grace is Mary's sister, and she's 26 years old. And Grace and Mary are very close. They were always together when she got there. When they were working on the house, Grace would help them. Grace would make fun of Dan for only being able to carry one or two hollow blocks at a time, not being strong enough to climb up the ladder carrying the hollow blocks. And she was always joking, smiling, and laughing. Dan started to really like this girl. He goes, she is really cool, man. She's funny, she's smart, and very pretty. Both sisters are very, very pretty girls. Well, as they're building the house, Dan decided, let's put an extra room on there. And instead of Grace living with the family, living in one of the rooms with like 3 or 4 other people, she can have her own room. And she can help Mary around the house because she's there all the time anyway. And that gives those 2 sisters someone to talk to, someone to, spend time with, someone to have good company with. And Dan enjoyed both of them. He enjoyed being around both. He loved Mary, but he really liked Grace. Well, they got the house finally all built. They all moved in. And, you know where the story goes here, guys. All of a sudden, Grace is a few months pregnant. I think she's 5 months pregnant back in July when I talked to him. And she's starting the show. And Dan, this is when Dan reached out to me. I did a video, and Dan reached out to me about this video and wanted to tell me the situation he was in with Grace, that she's pregnant and starting the show. And he really hopes it's not his. He's really hoping she fooled around with some other local Filipino boys, and this baby is not going to be his because he knows, because he's as pale can be, and this baby is going to be easily told that it's, a mixed baby. Well, once the family found out that Grace is pregnant, they started looking at Dan a little bit funny. Dan said he was feeling awkward. He was no longer the topic of conversation. He was no longer at the head of the table. He was not getting that best piece of chicken. He was not getting, the first serving of cake. He's getting the last pieces, and he knows they're talking about him. They used to try to talk always in English to him as much as they could. Now, all the older women and the brothers and the uncle and the father, they're talking in Filipino around him, and he knows they're talking about him. He is starting to worry about this. And then one day at dinner, one of the aunts said, we can do a DNA test on the baby, and started bringing up subjects like Social Security benefits, survivor benefits, being able to get some money from Dan's Social Security, his retirement, if the baby is his. Everybody's convinced the baby is his for all the time that he spent with Grace and he spent with Mary. He doesn't know what to do. This was back in July. He was just beside himself. When I reached out after that earthquake we had just the other week to see how he was doing, if they were okay, he told me everything's good with the house, with the property. Nobody got hurt. Everything's almost back to complete normal in the town he's at. But Grace is 8+ months pregnant, ready to drop any day now. He doesn't know what to do. Grace has moved in with one of her aunts, does not live with them anymore, and won't live with them until after the baby's born. And Dan has confessed to me, he knows what he's going to do. If the baby's his, he's going to invite Grace to live in the house with him and Mary. And he's going to take care of the baby financially, and as a father, take care of her. But I go, what does Mary have to say about this? Mary is his wife, and Dan loves his wife. He spends more time with his wife than anybody else. He loves his wife. They have a great relationship. The only black eye is he cheated. He was cheating with the sister. But deep inside, he thinks the sisters knew he was doing this, and they were okay with that. And now that Grace is pregnant, getting ready to drop this baby, if it is his, him and Mary have talked. Grace can move into the house, and the three of them will raise this child. Grace as the mother, him as the father, and Mary as a great aunt. So he's in a predicament here of not knowing what to do, but he has accepted the facts. And the thing is, what does the family think? What do the brothers think, and the cousins and the parents about this situation? Well, here in the Philippines, a lot of people say that's their business. It has nothing to do with me. That's their life. It has nothing to do with me. There's a lot of chismis, a lot of maritas, people talking behind his back. He can feel it. He senses it. He's not as comfortable as he was when he first got there, but he has his house built. He doesn't want to give up the house. He paid for the house. He paid for the land. Doesn't have any title. Doesn't have anything. He's at the mercy of Mary to keep him there. He's still on a tourist visa, and he's going to take care of the baby. The three of them have settled in on this is what they're going to do. The rest of the family, I believe, is going to accept whatever they decide to do. They're going to love the baby. Filipinos love the children. They're not going to hold the child responsible for anything the father or the mother did. They're going to love that child just like, it was their own. And it is their own. It's one of the family. So I told them, don't worry about that. No one's going to do anything to you. You're still bringing in the money. You have your Social Security check. You use that to pay for the food, to pay the electric, to pay the bills, help out the family. You distribute that money around. You're comfortable doing that. You're not in great financial shape, I told Dan, but you're in better shape than most guys here in the Philippines. But guys, what would you do? The temptation, the beautiful sister, the loving wife. Could you fall prey to this temptation here in the Philippines? It's an interesting story with Dan. I'm looking forward to going forward and seeing what happens after the baby's born, 6 months down the line, maybe after Christmas, see how everything's working out. I don't fear for his safety, but I do fear for his mental stability. Are members of the family going to be mad at him because they're going to look at him as somebody who's cheating on his wife? I don't know.